Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the highly anticipated, recently refreshed 2025 Volkswagen Taos. This one specifically is an SE trim level, and it's in a color that Volkswagen likes to call pure white, which I do think is a pretty accurate description of it. There's not really any metallic flake in the paint, but it is a very intense, very nice white shade, and I like it a lot. But it's not perfect, so today I get to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of one of the newest subcompact crossovers on the market today to help you guys at home decide if this might be the right vehicle for you, so you can expect to see a walk around. All the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts, and huge thanks to Twin Falls Volkswagen or Goody Motor Volkswagen for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link them below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP, they ship all over the country, and with that said, let's dive right into this review. And if you like Volkswagen, the Taos, or my video, please be so kind to consider liking my video. Basically, that lets me know you want to watch more stuff like this, helps the video get shared, and it helps you by having the YouTube choose to show you more stuff. But also comment below if you want to watch more Volkswagen videos, and I will do more of them for you guys. Otherwise, thank you so much. But if you're new to the Volkswagen Taos, or Volkswagen in general, there's actually a few things that you should probably know. Volkswagen is a German automaker, kind of like BMW and Audi, but they started back during World War II, back in 1937, and then it wasn't until 1949 that they started shipping the Volkswagen Bugs to the United States market, a little bit after the war ended. When these came out during World War II, they were designed to be the people's car, an affordable wagon, something that you could carpool, fit a few people in, and get pretty decent MPG, and I think the Bug hit the nail on the head. That's one of the best all-time selling vehicles ever. But the Taos, a pretty popular vehicle, named after a city in Mexico, which is ironic because these are actually assembled in Mexico before shipped to the United States. If you're in the market where I am, these came out back in 2022, so it's kind of funny that they already have a mid-generational refresh. But hey, I'm not complaining. I like the upgrades. It now has LED headlights across the lineup. It also has bigger injectors, bigger intercooler, making a little bit more horsepower. And there's a few other tweaks that you'll notice throughout this video and this review. But when you look at the Volkswagen, there's about 4 trim levels of it. The base Model S starts at $25,000, which is right at the same price point as many of the other subcompact crossovers. This one specifically, though, is the SE. There is also an SE Black and an SEL, but the SE starts at $28,000. This one does have 4-motion all-wheel drive, a $1,700 option. It also has a few other goodies, and then destination and delivery, which you can't really get out of. So this is about a $33,000 vehicle before Goody Motor Volkswagen gives you a couple $1,000 discount on it. So I'm going to link them below if you're interested. But otherwise, this is a pretty good bargain for about $31,000. It really feels like it punches above its class, and it offers a lot. It's also one of the biggest subcompact crossovers, as you'll learn as we go through the specs in just a few minutes. And while I do wish this was a top safety pick, or at least a 5-star crash test rated vehicle, like a lot of its competition, such as the Crosstrek, the CX-30. This does have a lot of standard safety features to help you and your family avoid accidents, such as adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and lane keep assist, features that personally I wouldn't want to live without in a new vehicle these days. But if you are going to spend almost $33,000 for this one, or even $28,000 for the base model, you do get a lot of extra features. This one does have the panoramic sunroof. It has a heated steering wheel, heated front seats, but the base SE still comes with a lot, such as these 18-inch wheels wrapped in a Goodyear Assurance tire. It also has remote start. It even has dual climate controls, the Cloud Tech seats, which is kind of a leatherette cloth hybrid, and a lot of extra sensors throughout the vehicle to help you with parking and braking and things like that, which feels like it's a pretty good value for only $33,000, roughly $15,000 less than the average new car these days. But if you do want a little bit more luxury than that, go with the SEL. And if you want a little bit more basic and to save a few $1,000s, just go with the Model S. And one of my favorite things about the Volkswagen Taos is because it is technically a subcompact crossover because of its 14.5 in length, fits really good in parking spots. While being a little bit wider and a little bit taller than the competition, it's roughly 6 feet wide and 5.5 feet tall, putting those dimensions closer to the regular compact crossovers, such as the CR-V and the RAV4. But this one, it has a 9-foot wheelbase, so it's very planted on the road, especially where it weighs about 3,400 pounds, which is average for the class. It has a payload capacity on this one of 937 pounds, so between the roof rails, the cargo behind the second row, and all the seats, you can hold 937 pounds worth of your favorite people and stuff. This one is not rated to tow though, which is sad because the other compact crossovers can usually tow anywhere from 15 to 3,500 pounds, depending on which one and how it's spec'd. And then this has about 7.6 inches of ground clearance because it's an all-wheel drive model. If it was just a regular front-wheel drive, you'd only have about 6.5 inches. It does have a 520 final drive ratio, so it puts the power down quite well, and it can do a full circle in about 37.5 feet. And then the last few things to mention out here is when we lock the vehicle. The gas door locks, so you don't have to worry about the bums trying to siphon any of your 14.5 gallons of gas if you have an all-wheel drive trim level, and 13.2 gallons if you have just a front-wheel drive trim level of the Taos. This one specifically is rated for 27 city, 33 on the highway, so your max road trip and distance is 478 miles, which I would say is on the upper end or the pretty good end of a subcompact crossover. And then it has a Goodyear Assurance tire with around 9.5 30 seconds of tread on the 18-inch wheel. Unfortunately, it just has a temporary spare in the back, but at least you get a temporary spare because not all of them have that. And then this is your key with lock, power liftgate, or hatch, open, whatever your vehicle's optioned with, remote start, and unlock. But honestly, when you have this key, just leave it in your pocket because you have the bellowed out door handles with the proximity key sensor, which is actually pretty accurate, and I like this a lot. And when we open up the driver's side door, you'll notice that it actually opens up really wide, so it's easy to get in and out of this vehicle, especially where I stand at 5'11". The seat is not terribly low compared to my hip when I'm standing, so it's going to be easy to get in, but it's also high enough that it's going to be easy to get out for most people. The door panel, though, it does have quite a few plastics. Yeah, quite a few plastics. The speakers, I don't think they necessarily sound fantastic on this base model, but all the soft touch materials, those are pretty good. You have a nice sturdy handle right here, a pretty decent sized snack pocket and bottle holder for this class of vehicle, and then you have a really nice aluminum Taos on the door sill. Pretty cool design on the all-weather mats, rubberized pedals. You even have the dead pedal, which I appreciate. Hood release, lighting stock, ventilation, other lighting controls. You have the leather-wrapped heated wheel, the cloud text, leatherette, and cloth heated powered seats, which I think it does feel like you're sitting on a cloud with this, and the bolstering is actually pretty good for the average build. And then you have the giant, very well tinted panoramic sunroof up top. And then sitting inside here, I would say is actually a really nice place to be. 5'11", it's easy to get comfortable. Everything is well laid out and easy to reach. Visibility is really good. The A-pillar is not overly thick. Side mirror does a pretty good job overall. And I like it a lot. The leather-wrapped heated wheel feels fantastic. But if you're new to Volkswagens, the start button is down here. So when you push it, it comes to life. You can hear the little 1.5-liter engine roar. I love that the heated steering wheel and heated seat features stay on. So if it's cold where you're at, leave it outside, have those features turned on when you park it, and then remote start it with the remote, and you'll have a nice toasty car for you. The horn, it's pretty loud, kind of high pitched, but not too bad. You have your cruise control settings on the left, all of your other adaptive settings on the right, and to control the infotainment screen. There's a few things that you can do with it, but this is the typical Volkswagen screen these days. You can connect your phone to the apps on this one. It's pretty responsive. I do like that you have physical all the time controls down here. So while it might not be buttons and knobs, they are pretty tactile. They actually respond pretty well, if you guys can see that. I'm actually pretty impressed with this for what the system is. And then you have a cigarette lighter, 12 volt, you have some USB Type-Cs, you have the wireless charger right there. The backup camera, though, looks like it's a potato. It's not very good. Thankfully, trajectory lines at least do move on it. It takes up the whole screen, but it's just not that good. It's kind of grainy, but you can see the back bumper, which is kind of cool. And then I'm assuming that the red line is where your hatch should open to when you do open up the hatch on this vehicle. Otherwise, you have your drive modes down here, electronic parking brake, auto vehicle, start and stop, parking sensors, your drive modes. And then you have some cup holders. You have a pencil tray if it's a small pencil. And then you have a very smaller than average center console. I do not like this very much. I wish it was a lot bigger. Some of the other compact crossovers, theirs is almost twice as big. And then nothing on the rear view mirror. You have the controls for the power mooner for the front half of it. You can also move the shade, which is really cool. And then you have the SOS buttons up top. And then does this come off and slide? Ooh, it does. That's a nice feature to have on a subcompact. And then LED lighting, which I really appreciate. With that said, let's turn it off and we'll hop in the back. The back of the Taos, the door panel opens up quite large. It's not the biggest in the class, but it is big enough, I would say, to get big dogs in here, kennels, child safety seats, anything like that. The door panel basically is very similar materials to the front. It is interesting, this huge door card, but instead of being soft touch, it's more like a painted plasticky piece, which is kind of a knock on this vehicle. Otherwise, the seats, they look comfy. I like the design, and you can fold them. Do they lay flat? There is a little bit of a hump compared to the back, but they are very thin. They do not take up a whole lot of space. The headrests don't bump into the front seats like they do on some other vehicles like the CX-30, and there's a lot of footroom down here. But let's lift up the seat. It's actually pretty light, not too difficult, but not as light as a Subaru Crosstrek seat. And sitting back here behind myself, I have a ton of room. That much room in front of my knees. Can I recline this? I don't think I can because it looks like there's a wall of plastic right there. But still, I am reclined back enough. You have vents back here, which not every subcompact crossover does. That's a huge win for this platform. A tiny bit of storage right here for a few little pieces of candy, maybe. I don't know what else you're going to put there. And then another single USB-C. So you and the backseat passengers are going to have to fight for that. The armrest. This is how it should be done. You and your passenger can each have an armrest and a drink versus these being horizontal and taking up your armrest space. And then it looks like this can drop down and you can get some easy access to the back for longer items, which I really appreciate. You can also see that you have the child safety anchors on all these seats, which is a huge win and something every vehicle should have. Otherwise, even with this huge piece of glass above my head, I have a lot of headroom at 5'11", and this is a very tall, very wide, spacious subcompact crossover, and this is the best I have ever felt in the back of one of them, which is pretty cool. I actually think the back of the Taos looks pretty good, and I'm usually not that attracted to the back of subcompact or regular compact SUVs, but I do like the design characteristics of it. It just looks like a huge Volkswagen Golf, that sort of theme and design language, so it's cool that the exterior engineers kind of could carry that over. 4Motion, Taos SE, and no power liftgate. So when we open this up manually, we have around 25 cubic feet of room. Back here under this little shade that you can take off for privacy that raises with the roof, there should be access to the spare tire under here. I actually like this kind of carpet design. It's kind of neat. Spare tire, your scissor jack, your tools, a little bit extra storage. Comment below. Keep it legal though. What are you hiding under here in the storage? And then there's that access port. You can also drop the seats, or we could remove this. I don't think this is necessarily too high to reach for or too difficult to lower down. But when you do lower all the seats, you have about 60 cubic feet of room, which is very, very good for this class of vehicle. And then if we come around to the driver's side, you'll notice you have the same proximity key feature little nub, which I really like. Door panel opens big. It's basically the exact same as the driver's side, minus a few of the controls. You also don't have the power options. Thankfully, my backpack doesn't care as long as the heated seats are turned on. And nice views, nice glass, really nice area to be. You do have a little bit of transmission tunnel storage, mesh pocket. I love that. Nothing above the glove box though, but it is non-locking and it's big. I would say that makes up for the center console room. And with that said, let's come around to the front and I'll pop the hood on this 1.5 liter little turbo engine that's been revised for this new generation. Under the hood is a revised 1.5 liter turbo engine. Has some few peripheral upgrades like the injectors, the intercooler size. So this puppy purrs out about 174 to 177 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, depending on how your overall vehicle is configured with its all-wheel drive system, front-wheel drive, which trim level, all that stuff. And then a whopping 184 pound-feet of torque at about 1,750 RPM. So the torque comes on really low. So when you are getting onto, say, a highway and you do a right-hand turn, you have no power for the first second or so of acceleration, while you only have the naturally aspirated version 1.5 liter amount of power. Once the turbo torque kicks in, this pulls pretty darn good for what it is, but at very low speeds coming off of a stoplight, you'll notice that it doesn't have the boost. It's just a very small displacement engine, but that's only a factor for a few milliseconds maybe. Otherwise, you have reservoirs on the periphery. You have the battery, the fuse box, the air filter. You can see it goes through the turbo in the back, comes back around for the induction side right here. You have the oil dipstick, the oil fill. Serpentine belt is on this side, so even though this is an all-wheel drive version of this platform, it still is more front-wheel drive biased and it's transversely mounted. So the serpentine belt, the alternator, all of that stuff is very tight in there, if you guys can see that. I don't know how it would be to work on one of these. It's a small engine. You can see a lot of stuff. So I think overall it's probably not going to be too bad to work on because a lot of things do look pretty accessible. But with that said, let's drop the hood, take it for a drive and see what it can do. Initial driving impressions of the 2025 refreshed Volkswagen Taos. Lightly getting on the accelerator, When you're not going from a complete standstill, the turbo with the low RPM full boost torque really kicks in strong, and it feels more powerful than it is. Visibility in this thing is actually pretty decent, especially for this class of vehicle. Tons of natural light. I like that the roof liner is not dark, it's light, so it kind of reflects a little bit more. And when you're just cruising at the speed limit around 50 miles an hour, even on a country road, I mean, there's a little bit of wind noise, not so much road noise from these Goodyear Assurance tires, and it's just a comfortable place to be. You can see right down the center with the rear view mirror. The side mirrors, while looking good from the exterior, they're actually pretty big too, although I do wish they were maybe a tiny bit more height vertically, so you could see lower to the ground without angling them extremely low. I don't necessarily think the speakers in this lower trim level SE sound fantastic, but these seats are comfortable. The cup holders are where they should be, kind of out of the way. Some vehicle manufacturers are now putting them like underneath the dashboard, which is kind of weird. And this handles better than you might expect. Taking corners with a little bit of speed, feels more planted to the road. And then it's easy to power out because you're already in the RPM where the torque is at its peak. So overall, I've enjoyed this quite a bit getting to drive it around. It just feels like a more luxurious vehicle than you would expect for this price point. The materials, the interior, the color themes, it all is good. The leatherette seats I really like. Even my backpack I think would agree. And then I'm wearing a vest today, a poofy vest, but I think the heated seats, I can still feel them fairly decently through the vest. The steering wheel is heated, and it's not just between these two lines like it is on some other automakers like my Toyota RAV4 hybrid. You can actually feel it up here too, so you can hold on wherever you want to, and you're gonna have a nice experience. And overall, I think it's a pretty nice ride, especially at this price point. It's not gonna be as quiet as a really high-end German luxury car, but for just over 30 grand, you have very little to complain about. Let's see how it handles this bump with the 18-inch wheels. A little bit stiff, but about what you'd expect on this class and with this suspension. Overall, it's a pretty nice place to be. I highly recommend you test drive one of these if you are in the market for a vehicle like this. Otherwise, I'm gonna get to the private road, do a 0 to 60, and we'll see how fast it is with the 1.5 liter turbo and its upgrades for this year. 0 to 60 in the refreshed Volkswagen Taos. I'm just going to leave it in normal mode. Density altitude's 3,000 feet, so it is down in power probably about 5%. A little bit of a brake rev, let's see what it can do. The shifts are a little bit slower than I expected, and it did take just a moment for the turbo boost to really kick in, but true 0 to 60 came in at 9.91 seconds. I do have to say, on the street, it does feel faster than only a 10-second 0 to 60 car. My final thoughts of the Volkswagen Taos is I personally like it a lot. I think for about $33,000 before a couple $1,000s off, this is a fantastic deal. It offers a lot. It actually looks pretty good. It looks very much like a Volkswagen, typical design language, and all the interior bits are comfortable. It offers a lot of luxuries. I kind of think of this kind of like the Equinox, kind of like the Trax and the Trailblazer by Chevy, where the vehicle's exteriors are designed exceptionally well. It feels like you're driving something more expensive and more luxurious than you are, but the trade-off is it only has a 1.5 liter high-strung little engine. Maybe it's overbuilt, maybe it's easy to work on and easy to modify, maybe these even have their own aftermarket platform. I don't know. I just don't know how long-term reliability is going to be with this new 8-speed automatic and with this 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. But driving it around for the day, it feels fantastic. It's a nice little vehicle. For the 0 to 60, I did not put it in sport mode. I did not turn off traction control. If you want to know perfect numbers, which I can't get at my altitude anyways, you're going to have to Google the magazines for that and see what the ideal perfect condition, non-realistic numbers are. But doing a 10-second 0 to 60, having all the capability that this one has, overall, I don't think you can go wrong either way. I just don't know about long-term, just like I don't know about long-term on those other littler engines that do have to work a little bit harder. But honestly, with a bigger intercooler, bigger injectors, I think Volkswagen is moving in the right direction. I think they're doing a lot of things well to help preserve and make this vehicle better for the average consumer, for the average family. So ultimately, this is just my thoughts and opinions, and I would love to hear yours in the comments below. And if you got anything out of this video, please consider liking it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the Twin Falls Volkswagen or Goody Motor Volkswagen if you are interested in saving a few $1,000s and having one shipped to you. Otherwise, I wish you guys the absolute best. I hope you take care, and until next time, see ya.